Hey everyone, ScarForaScar here. I got a very special DeckTech here with the living legend himself, Pearce, the man who showed up to New Zealand Nationals running a 20 HP young Prism hero. How was your weekend overall, brother?
Oh mate, I had a lot of fun. Went down there not expecting too much. Definitely not some infamy that came with running Prism. Having to get in on last chance qualifier was the first hurdle. Again, happy if I fell out of that, but managed to go 3-1 there, so got me into the main pack, and then 3-0 on the first day, which definitely caused a stir.
How was the reaction of most of your opponents when they saw you playing the young Prism?
Definitely surprised. This deck was definitely built to have an element of surprise, which certainly worked on the first couple of days. Bit of frustration from the Guardians, of course. They were pretty happy for her to be gone and a little bit pissed off to see her back across the other side of the table from them.
They thought they were finally able to just sweep her under the rug, right?
Oh, look, day 2 there was discussion about whether she needs to now get 1,000 Living Legend points in CC so they can finally be free of her if this gains some traction.
Oh well, so we got here the equipment here in your aura packages. So pretty standard equipment, and the aura package is quite similar to what we're used to. Obviously the Ode to Wrath has a bit more use now with having to use Iris as your weapon. You don't have the built-in go again.
Yeah, look, that wasn't really what it was there for as such. Firstly, the equipment, what I loved about this package is Arcanite Skullcap, which has kind of become the lesser to the Crown of Providence. Just amazing on AB3 straight off the bat into any wizards. So I'm carrying AB5 straight away, which my pitch value definitely pays for quite happily. But Crown of Providence, of course, just a superior card in terms of getting rid of a non-block out of your hand, but most importantly protecting my arsenal when CNCs come through, particularly with a pummel followed up from those nasty Guardians. So pretty standard kit. And then the Aura kit, blue's absolutely the best value. Getting those down all the time, doesn't matter what it is, but Haze Bending and Shimmers of Silver MVPs, they're just must deal with. The other two, they're not too bothered about. Did get 3 Haze Bendings out against somebody and got to about 9 Spectral Shields when a Pulverize came through, so I've never seen a less threatening Pulverize in my life. Genesis, absolute key yellow card, just gets you so much value in terms of a Spectral Shield and charging your soul, which you don't often get to do because you're not swinging so much with the Heralds. Again, going back to Haze Bending, really important that it's out there and you know that even if it's going to get killed, you're going to have a weapon swing the next turn. So they kill it, you're still hitting. Parable and Merciful, you know, they are more matchup picks. So Parable, obviously, for the go wides, saves you a bit of value, probably saves you about 7 or 8 life. Still got to choose your moment to drop it. Merciful, more so into the Icelander matchup, but in saying that, it didn't do a lot of work into the one Icelander that I played against. But again, really helpful to basically give them auras to have to deal with before they deal with your Spectral Shields, especially if you've built up 5 or 6 or 7. And then Ode to Wrath, really valuable in terms of getting that extra 1 ping over the top. When you're swinging for 4, they're blocking with 3, and they've got to start using their equipment. Same as kind of when you get to that late game of a Luminaris, you know, you want those those equipment blocks to come through so you can come through with some extra damage later on. And then of course Arclight, just a busted card. You got to pick your moment, but ultimately with so many blues in the deck, these yellow drops were just so much easier. You could even drop 2 if you're a bit greedy. If they had an off turn, you can also, you know, drop your Arclight and then still swing with 2 auras the next turn. So yeah, massive card in this.
How many blues are we running in the list?
39 blues in total, which I said to people over the weekend. I feel like Luminaris was actually a bit of a trap. Yes, we like to swing 2 Heralds because they're nice and butty, and they get that soul charge. But shit, every 3 turns I'm taking off a tunic counter and dropping an aura off one pitch card. So yeah, absolutely huge value to have those blues in the deck for those yellows.
Nice. Was there any consideration on upping the auras to just maxing out, which would just be the extra Parable and Merciful?
No, well, they were actually one of the things that had to be cut as part of the sideboarding list. So the view was to really protect your life, and these not blocking. Of course, you do have D-reacts, which we'll look at next. But ultimately,
the fabled 27 D-reacts.
27, and Matt Rogers dodged them all. No, I was very mindful that if I had too many of these, then I'm kind of just going to be playing a 40 life Prism game plan, and if you do that, you're probably going to die.
Yeah.
So it was really about making sure that you still had that defense in hand at any given time, and just knowing that 4 cost drops are pretty expensive life-wise to get out. And then the only other special thing on this page here is Miraging Metamorph. If I had my time again, I'd probably cut down to 2 anyway. It was a last-minute change to actually push up to 3. It was quite an interesting card that, of course, people don't want to block it because it's just going to slow them down as you create another Spectral Aura. So what it actually served as is generally a life leveling card. So you're already 20 behind, so getting 7 or 9, depending on whether you've got a Pearce reality out, onto them, or taking a couple of cards that aren't poppers off them to kind of speed your game plan up. You can also drop it off just a single tunic counter. So it had its moments, but I wouldn't say it was a massive part of the deck that would need to hang around forever. But of course, always threatening to create yet another Spectral Aura is always a bit scary.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll move on to the next part of the deck, shall we?
Yep.
So here we have the fabled 27 defense reacts that Matt Rogers was yapping on about. It doesn't look like that much.
Yeah, look, it's definitely not 27D reacts. It was a bit of a balancing act. You want to make sure that you're getting some value out of your arsenal is really the main thing here. Obviously, Sigil of Solace, you're on 20 life, so grabbing another 9 is pretty damn valuable.
Help level out the playing field a bit.
A little bit, just seems fair. Lots of CNC baiting as well, throwing it into arsenal, as they expect a D-react to be sitting there. There was even some games that I actually ended up on more than 20 life by the end of the game. So that was a bit trolly. But look, we've got 2 Fate for Scenes and 3 Sinks. Sometimes I'd cut this maybe down to 4, depending on the matchup. The Reinforce the Line was a bit of tech because I just found that a pummeled CNC was just too damaging. It would put me back 4 life plus, or burn some Spectral Shields. And of course take a card out of my hand, so it's an off turn that cost too much damage. So this was a bit of fun to throw those out into a 2 card block against a CNC. They come over with the pummel when you're ready to reinforce the line. Oasis Respite, just again great value in terms of dealing with the likes of CNC and pummel. And also that gain of life is almost always turned on. I say almost because there were times that I didn't get that +1 life.
It's crazy to think that.
Second half of the game.
Also there's a lot of nice synergy with the tunic.
Yeah, definitely. Getting it off a tunic drop is all good. Getting it off a blue when you've got soul ready to go, or even off a soul shield. So you've got an Oasis and a soul shield. You're blocking 10 dominate from hand if you've got no arsenal. Just feels good. And that's why it feels like 27D reacts. Then of course you got Soul Shield, which is just an incredible card. Getting something into your soul without any other conditions. And then the unmovables. Originally jumped on the red unmovable, thinking, hey, look, I've got the space for it, but a yellow was just so much more important in terms of it still gets you to those breakpoints for your cripplings and your okins, and then it also allows you to pitch with a tunic to swing, or it's going to help your pitch in terms of getting another aura out.
Sweet. I'm very surprised that you're not running the triple fates as well. What was the reasoning behind that? Just because they're reds, or
it can start to clog up. Yeah, definitely the reds. So this is only the second iteration of the deck. The first iteration had a lot of reds. Again, I felt like, well, I'm not moving the yellows, so I can deal with some blues and reds. But I just found that every time that you had reds in your hand, it's another weapon swing that you can't throw out. And I actually found that in my round 11 match into Winton, he was running Oldham. He went into all my auras, and these things started cycling around. And when you're picking up reds in your hand, when you're trying to swing four blues to swing 16 damage, starts to feel a bit uneasy. So I think into that match I actually kept all 5. Couldn't tell you the rationale, but yeah, I certainly regretted it when I saw 2 of them clump together come back around again.
Alright, sweet. We're just going to move on to the next section then. Cool, so here we have the meat and bones of the deck, the blues. Do you want to talk about these a bit, or they're not really too relevant?
Oh, they are and they aren't, and they can be, depending on how you play. So we've got blue unmovables, of course, as rounding out the blue suite. But again, you know, in one of the games I dropped a War Tune Herald off a tunic counter because I just needed that extra push through. You know, swing, and then War Tune Herald for 7. You know, you're presenting 19 damage off 3 cards. It's pretty good. Done something similar with Miraging Metamorph. Herald of Tenacity, I actually ended a game with that because again, once they've chewed up all their equipment, it's a good one to pitch to the bottom.
Cheeky Dominator.
Yeah, look, they're going to just think that you're stripping cards from them, and they've maybe got another turn on the tick, but no, you come through with a Dominate and you're going to end the game with arguably the worst Prism card in the game. Herald of Triumph never really came out and saw play because ultimately into Guardians, you know, they're big enough that they're going to be still popping you.
Yeah.
Herald of Rebirth did have some consideration through the games, but never really got to play it because they're going to block it out anyway, and that's not your game plan. Is not to strip cards from their hand through Herald of Rebirth. You're still going to get better value just throwing that into some auras and getting it back into your deck. Herald of Protection and Ravages never saw play despite their value. Again, just more value out of pitching them. Illuminate, this was an interesting one because of course we run out of Genesis triggers in terms of the light illusionist cards. So Illuminate was there as a light card. If you throw it into Genesis to start a turn, you get to cycle that. So you get to do that with Soul Shield if you game enough and want a blue. But you can do that with Illuminate as well, just to cycle your hand and get that soul pumped up. Otherwise you're not really attacking with it unless you're desperate and don't have any auras or spectrals out. And then Phantasmal Haze got a bit of play every now and then because of course the pop trigger, they don't want another weapon out on your side, and then you can swing with it, so that you tend to strip 2 cards from their hand with that quite readily. But generally again it's just a blue block 3, the whole package.
Yeah, very Guardian-esque, right? Just playing blues to pitch them and block with them for the most part.
Exactly.
Until they have their uses every now and then.
Yeah, and I've seen lists, you know, that you know, when you're playing defensively with Prism, I've seen lists with blue Brothers in Arms, which is definitely a consideration, and also blue. Well, it only comes in blue. This Round's on Me. This Round's on Me was actually in the deck until the night before, but again, getting that Genesis trigger, so the Herald of Tenacities came in last minute, and getting that Genesis trigger was more important to get both sides of that. And then Brothers in Arms, I think it could still have a place in here, but again, more generics just kind of thin out. You know, you want Genesis to be doing work for you every single time you play it, and as long as it's out. So yeah, it might bump up your defense a little bit, and obviously maybe get you away from some of those reds. But the main thing I needed was the D-Reacts in Arsenal. Brothers in Arms is still played from hand and sucks away 2 cards from you. So I just didn't see enough value in it to run it in the deck.
I imagine when you were prepping for the event, you were preparing for quite a bit of Guardian players, mainly. Is that another reason why This Round's on Me kind of fell off?
Not entirely, but it was certainly, in a cheeky kind of way, this was built to beat up Guardians. We knew there was going to be a bit of Guardians in the meta, and of course if I got the right matchups then we'd be happy. And then ultimately, you know, when I thought about, well, what is a 3-block This Round's on Me going to achieve me? If I get 2 of them together, it's going to give an off turn for that player. But at the same time, Arclight's just got so much more value in this deck because of the blues that I'm better off running 3 Arclights and shutting down a couple of turns in a row. Okay.
And obviously, if only having the 20 HP running into aggro was kind of the nightmare, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a feared scenario. The matchups into Guardians, the element of surprise was key. They all thought, well, there's only 20 life, so I'm going to hammer you down. Before it was too late, they realised they didn't realise before it was too late that, they got down to 20 life themselves, taking damage to try and do bigger and bigger swings into me. Every turn just blocking them out or leaking only a few damage. And then all of a sudden they're facing 20 life versus 30 life, and I've got 5 auras out. So it's pretty much the win condition for Prism.
Scenario that Guardian players don't like to be in.
Exactly. The aggro decks, I only played, I have played an earlier iteration into Briar, and got, I think it was pretty close to this iteration. Got fairly close to draining him of attacks, so started getting kind of clogged up hands on the second cycle in D-reacts, non-attack actions. Also thought about the Lexi matchup. Lexi's only got so many arrows, so she has to choose whether she's going to run them at your face or into your auras, and by the time she realises she can't get through on your face, she probably doesn't have enough to deal with the auras. So Fire, of course, is a bit of a boogeyman out there. Haven't gotten it to run into a full Draconic Fire. Did run it into a bit of more of a Katsu build almost.
Yeah.
And that went really well because just shutting down a lot of the go again conditionals was really powerful.
Yeah, the on-hit ninja attacks aren't too great when you're going against defense reacts and defense-orientated decks.
No, so shut down a few turns in a row, which just let me get the board state up, and then it was, you need to deal with that board state, otherwise you die. So just blocks really efficiently. So haven't had too much testing into really trying to exhaust a solid aggro deck, but did also have a Icelander matchup near the end. Thought I had the game plan into Icelander, but didn't really think about the fact that her combo would take out 20 life in one fell swoop. So there's probably another Oasis that I'd chuck in, and then just be really, really careful on the life total. But
yeah, because they're cheering when they see that you're starting in kill range off the bat, right?
Exactly. They don't even have to work for it. It just gives them so much flexibility to set up and take some hits. And then ultimately, one freezing point's going to do your 20 life. And if you survive that miraculously with an Oasis, an Arsenal, and a Tunic up, they're going to come and do it.
Gets you.
Well, they're just going to do it in a couple more turns.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to just stick with Prism throughout the Nationals weekend?
Well, look, I don't play a lot. I try as much as I can. I've got 2 young kids at home, and a pretty full-on work kind of workload, if you like, across a number of things. And Prism I jumped onto probably about a year ago, after mucking around with a whole bunch of different stuff after Monarch launched.
So your rationale was you'd rather stick with something familiar that you know inside and out and try learn a new deck in the 3 weeks limited time.
Yeah, look, as much as it was a masterclass, that last match of the calling in Lille for Prism to get their Living Legend points, I think all Prism mains were secretly hoping that it wouldn't happen. Well, not secretly, actually, very openly hoping it didn't happen. And then when it did, I threw a dash together, I threw an Icelander together. What else did I throw together? Dromai. Things that I thought probably were reminiscent of the playstyle, but I just found hand to hand, I didn't know what decisions to make, I didn't know what to block with, I didn't know what to value, and I just thought, well, look, if I'm going to go to Nats, yes, it's a bit of a gamble to go on last chance qualifier, and a bit of fun. I play the game for fun. I'm not a competitive player. I want to have fun with it, and I just found that playing a new hero, I'm going to get frustrated initially. I'm going to know that I'm misplaying. I know that I'm not getting the best value out of the deck. And so at the end of the day, taking Prism down, as much as I could have just got donked, 06 in the CC or not even make it in, I was happy to take that risk. Because at the end of the day, I'll be having fun playing Prism rather than, getting frustrated with the outcome of my matches when I don't know a deck well enough.
You didn't think to just play Fire and just throw your hand down every turn without thinking?
No, because I do have intelligence over 70 IQ, so I just figured I would, still want to flex my brain a little bit over the weekend. At the end of the day, the fallback was Sunday. If I bombed out in the LCQ, I could still play Sunday for a bit of fun. Saturday there was supposed to be some side events which didn't really fire, but I had a Cheyenne ready to go, had some other Blitz decks and such, and of course Prism I can build in Blitz quite happily as well. So
yeah. So what was your overall CC record for the weekend with the Young Prism?
So with Young Prism, right from the get-go, we had 3-1 in the first LCQ on the Friday night.
Starting off strong.
Yep, so that got me in and a bit of buzz. Chris Gearing sitting to the right of me with a bit of apprehension about what's going to happen here. So the only loss there was into a Briar, which I think even Chris mentioned that...
expected, right?
Most decks wouldn't survive that high roll that came at me.
No, the Mount High Roll, is it?
Oh, it was insane.
Classic.
CNC for 9, go again, followed up by a Runic Reclamation.
As LSS intended.
Yep. And then, into day 2, we went 3-0 into, Dash, a heavy control Dash. So only one game plan in that one on Keegan. Didn't get a chance to get any more items out because otherwise he would have just taken too much tempo out of getting rid of the auras. He did a really good job to clean up as many auras as possible, but ultimately just the damage just kept coming. When he's going 2-2 at me, I'm going 4-4-4 at him, so a bit unbalanced. And then we had a lovely Oldham matchup and a lovely Guardian matchup, and those are the ones that I love because...
You were seeking them out, right?
Yeah, look, it was the same on the Friday night. They're sitting there going, well, you're only on 20. I can hit you pretty hard. I'm going to hit you with 10 Dominate, and I say full block. I'm going to hit you with a Pulverized Dominate. It's full block. I'm going to hit you with a Glacial Footsteps, and I'm going to come over the top with a Pummel. Yeah, it's full block. And as I said earlier, by the time they realise that they're not getting through, the board state's set up and they swing into an aura, and I hit them for 16, and they swing into another aura and I hit them for 16, and then they try to attack me to the face. I block it out and keep my spectral. So it was quite honestly built to troll Guardians.
Doing us all God's work. So, just one last question before I cap it off. If there were some viewers out there that were thinking about maybe picking up Young Prism and taking them to their local armories or maybe some callings or something, is there any advice you'd give to someone that wanted to play the 20 HP deck?
Hey, look, if you know Prism, you know she can do this. She's a bit squishy on equipment, but she's pretty butty in terms of being able to put up a defense, especially with those Spectres having to be dealt with. If you know Prism, don't be shy, give it a crack. Obviously, check out your meta if you're going heavily Guardians, as New Zealand likes to follow Kale McCreath for some unknown reason. Yeah, I don't know. Beats me. Then it could be the one to play, and it's going to take a while for her to get to 1,000 living legend points. So.
Start the grind all over again, eh?
Exactly.
Well, cheers for your time, Nick, and congratulations on the success you had with a half HP hero.
Yeah, thanks, mate.